is Andre Winardi, an international student from Indonesia who is currently studying in LA. Being an Indonesian with a Chinese ethnicity background, he is very much aware of the May 1998 riots of Indonesia, where so many Chinese Indonesians were slaughtered. Today, I will be interviewing Andre on the violent history of Indonesia from another fellow Indonesian standpoint. Hi, thank you for taking the time to interview with me. So can we start by briefly introducing yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Andre Winardi. I'm currently a senior at USC studying industrial systems engineering. I am Indonesian by nationality, but I am ethnically Chinese, as in my grandparents, when they were young, moved from China to Indonesia to start a better life, basically. I was in Jakarta. I was 98, so I was 3 years old. So I don't really remember that much, but certain specific events I do remember vividly in my memory. I remember waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning. My mother told me that we had to leave and that we were headed to the airport. I didn't even take anything. I just took my mom took my passport and we left to the airport, and next thing I knew, I was living in Singapore for about a year after the riots. So I wasn't that interested, or even maybe not too aware of what was happening with the riots, like right after. But going to like middle school and high school, where we were asked to explore our identities and explore more about our history, I came to ask more questions about what exactly happened during the 1998 riots. So I did ask my parents and my brothers what happened, and yeah, they basically told me, it was not a good time to be in Jakarta, to stay in Jakarta, because especially children and women who were ethnically Chinese would be in danger if they stayed in Jakarta mostly. That's why we moved to Singapore, and I thought it was very interesting how my father actually stayed in Jakarta to keep working, because in my mind, it was really odd that he could still stay in Jakarta, but apparently he said that while it was dangerous, after a while, after the initial riots, it died down a bit a few days after. I think in retrospect, it was the correct move, because from my understanding, uh, geographically in Jakarta, there were certain areas that were more affected by the riots than others, and the area that I was living in the south, was heavily affected. That meant that a lot of people were harmed in that area, and I had to move. But I did know of a lot of other families that stayed in Jakarta during the riots, that because they lived in certain areas that were just coincidentally not too affected. But I think my family did the right thing. Yeah, so I think in terms of racial injustice, I think Indonesia is in a much better place than it was when compared to the 1998 conditions. Because in 1998, the Chinese were used as scapegoats for the economical downturn that happened. But we know now that that was simply not true. It was due to a lot of factors run by the government and the past president that led to the whole economic downturn for Indonesia. And I think nowadays, in like 2017, you know, the people and the nation as a whole are smarter. They know that they can't simply uh, make a scapegoat out of
Like
any
make assumptions, basically.
correct. They cannot make assumptions out of any nationality as easily as it was done before. But in the period before, in 1998, it was the perfect scenario and environment for this using the Chinese as a scapegoat, because back then the Chinese were a huge, a minority, a huge minority, and coincidentally, the Chinese were the wealthier individuals that a lot of the native Indonesians looked at and were, jealous, or not even just jealous, just they saw them in a different light,
Yeah.
in a negative light, and I think in terms of this negative light and this tension between the Indonesians and the Chinese Indonesians has gone down in the past few years, especially when compared to '98. Because as you can see now, I believe personally that relationships are much better now between the two races.
Although Indonesia is currently in a good place, Andre stresses that there is always room for improvement, especially in the government. Historically, seats in the government positions are always filled by native Indonesians. There is a stigma against having Chinese Indonesians in place as government officials. However, there is improvement with the current Prime Minister of Jakarta, Ahok, who comes from a Chinese ethnic background. With continuous improvements such as this taking place, a better and stronger future for Indonesia awaits.